In the midst of global conflict, a different kind of battle was being waged on the home front. Across America, 20 million gardens bloomed in backyards, parks, and on rooftops. This was the Victory Garden movement, a grassroots effort to feed a nation at war. But they had a critical problem. The very same chemical factories that could have produced fertilizer were now churning out explosives. The nitrogen needed to make plants grow was also the nitrogen needed for bombs. So they couldn't just sprinkle factory-made powders on their soil. They had to learn a different way, a forgotten way. They had to learn to feed the soil itself, not just the plant. Welcome to the ultimate guide to gardening like your great-grandparents. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about rediscovering a profoundly effective and resilient way of growing food. We're going to uncover the 4 foundational soil revival secrets that turned ordinary backyards into breadbaskets. These aren't quick fixes in a bottle. They are timeless principles that are cheaper, more effective, and build a garden that doesn't just survive, but thrives, getting stronger and more fertile every single year. This is the knowledge that creates a true partnership with the land, a partnership we've largely forgotten. Secret number 1, the crop rotation code. This is the strategic heart of the Victory Garden. You can't plant the same thing in the same spot year after year. It's like only ever eating candy. Eventually, you'll crash, and so will your soil. Different plants have different appetites. Some are incredibly hungry, while others are light eaters. The WWII gardener was a master of the 4-year rotation, a simple yet brilliant system to keep the soil balanced and healthy. Think of it like this. In year 1, you plant the heavy feeders, leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and cabbage that crave nitrogen to produce all that lush foliage. They take a lot from the soil bank. In year 2, in that same spot, you plant the medium feeders, like tomatoes, peppers, and squash. These fruiting plants need less nitrogen, but draw more phosphorus and potassium to develop their flowers and fruit. Then, in year 3, you bring in the light feeders, the root vegetables like carrots, beets, and radishes. They act as the cleanup crew, drawing nutrients from deeper in the soil and helping to improve its structure without demanding much in return. And finally, the master stroke, year 4. This is when you bring in the fixers, the legumes like beans and peas. These incredible plants have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria in the soil, allowing them to pull nitrogen gas right out of the air and fix it into a usable form in their root nodules. They are like tiny nitrogen factories that pay the soil back for everything it's given. This isn't just moving plants around, it's a sustainable cycle that prevents soil exhaustion, breaks pest and disease cycles, and builds fertility year after year. Secret 2, the compost weapon. If crop rotation was the strategy, compost was the ammunition. This was their black gold, the engine of the entire garden. In a world of rationing and scarcity, nothing was wasted. Every potato peel, every coffee ground, every fallen leaf, and every scrap of newspaper was seen not as trash, but as soil fuel. They understood a fundamental principle of nature. Decay is the engine of rebirth. By layering greens and browns, they created the perfect diet for a thriving microbial ecosystem. The greens, things like kitchen scraps, grass clippings, and garden trimmings, are rich in nitrogen, providing the protein for the microscopic workforce. The browns, like dried leaves, straw, shredded paper, and cardboard, are rich in carbon, providing the energy. The ideal ratio is about 2 to 3 parts brown to 1 part green. Get this balance right, add a little water for moisture, and turn the pile occasionally for oxygen, and you create a microbial reactor. Billions of bacteria, fungi, and other organisms go to work, breaking down the organic matter and transforming it into the most potent, life-giving soil amendment on the planet. This wasn't just fertilizer, it was a soil conditioner, a microbial inoculant, and a water retention miracle all in one. It was free, it was easy, and it was the living, breathing heart of the Victory Garden. Secret 3. The homemade fertilizer arsenal. While compost builds the long-term structure and health of the soil, sometimes plants need a quick boost, especially during critical growth phases. When you couldn't buy a bottle of Miracle Grow, you made your own potent liquid feeds. They would brew compost tea, a living probiotic smoothie for plants. This isn't just leachate from the bottom of a compost pile. True compost tea is made by actively steeping high-quality, finished compost in aerated water for 24 to 48 hours. The goal is to extract and multiply the beneficial bacteria, fungi, and protozoa from the compost into a liquid solution. When you apply this to your plants, you're not just feeding them nutrients. You're inoculating the soil and leaf surfaces with a protective army of beneficial microbes that help suppress disease and improve nutrient uptake. Then there was the even more pungent but equally effective weed tea. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. You take nutrient-accumulating weeds, like comfrey, nettles, or dandelions, stuff them into a bucket, add water, and let it all rot for a few weeks. It smells like something died in your garden, a truly foul odor that will test your commitment. But that smell is the sign of powerful fermentation. The water becomes a nutrient-dense soup, rich in nitrogen, potassium, and trace minerals that the deep-rooted weeds mined from the subsoil. Diluted with water, this stinky brew is a superfood for heavy-feeding plants. It's the gardening equivalent of a pungent, artisanal cheese. An acquired taste, but your plants will absolutely love it. Secret 4. The weed and pest deception. Without access to modern chemical pesticides and herbicides, victory gardeners had to be clever. They had to think like an ecologist and a general, using strategy and deception instead of brute force. They practiced the art of companion planting, using certain plants to help and protect others. This is biological teamwork. They knew that planting strong-smelling marigolds among their tomatoes could help deter root knot nematodes in the soil. They planted basil near their peppers not just for culinary convenience, but because its scent can help repel pests like thrips and spider mites. They would also use trap crops like nasturtiums, which aphids find absolutely irresistible. The aphids would swarm the nasturtiums, leaving the more valuable vegetable crops alone. It's a brilliant act of sacrifice. Beyond planting, they used physical barriers. A coarse ring of crushed eggshells or diatomaceous earth creates a sharp, inhospitable barrier that soft-bodied slugs and snails refuse to cross. They didn't try to create a sterile, pest-free environment, which is impossible anyway. Their goal was to create a balanced, diverse ecosystem where pest populations were kept in check by natural predators and clever deterrents. It was about making their garden a less appealing target than the one next door. It was psychological warfare for bugs. The true legacy of the Victory Garden isn't just the staggering amount of food they grew, it's the profound lesson they embodied, that we can and must work with nature, not against it. They understood that soil isn't just dirt. It's not an inert medium to be pumped full of chemicals. It's a living, breathing, infinitely complex ecosystem. It's a subterranean city teeming with billions of microorganisms, a web of fungi, a network of tunnels dug by earthworms. When you feed that ecosystem with compost, protect it with crop rotation, and defend it with clever planting, it feeds you back, abundantly and sustainably, year after year. In the decades that followed the war, we largely abandoned this wisdom for the perceived convenience of chemical agriculture. We traded soil health for soluble salts, microbial diversity for monocultures. We treated the soil like a factory floor instead of a living partner. But the secret to truly resilient, nutrient-dense food production was never lost. It was just hiding in our own backyards, waiting to be rediscovered. So, the next time you step into your garden, I want you to remember the quiet wisdom of the Victory Gardeners. Don't just ask, what should I plant this year? Start with a more fundamental question. What does my soil need to thrive? Because when you shift your focus from feeding the plants to growing the soil, everything changes. The plants become the easy part. You're no longer just a gardener. You're a soil steward, a custodian of life, building a legacy of health and abundance from the ground up.